Hi, my name is Stuart Coppage, and I have been in the architectural profession since 1984. So what is that, 37 years?
And then how did you first become interested?
That's a really good question. I actually thought about becoming a marine biologist of all things, and then slid over and started studying chemical engineering in college and realized that's not really what I wanted to pursue. And then my mother said, well, you know, there is a profession that does all the stuff you've always loved to do, to draw and to build models and do all of that. You ought to look into architecture. So I talked to a friend of a friend kind of a thing, and it sounded like it might be an interesting career, and so I just changed majors and never looked back. Yeah, well, the education is pretty rigorous. To become an architect, you generally need either a 5-year bachelor's degree, a professional degree, or an undergrad degree, and then a master's degree in architecture. And then you have an internship that lasts roughly 3 years, a certain number of hours. It's kind of shifted from when I first got out of school to now, how they do it. And they call it the AXP, the Architecture Experience Program. And you get a certain number of hours working with an architect, and then you take a registration exam that used to be a 4-day, 1 day right after the other exam, including a 12-hour design problem, but now is shifted to kind of a multiple session testing that you can do at any time. You can take, once you've finished your AXP, your hours, you can take that test, and now you can even take it in most states. You can take it before you finish your experience. You begin taking that registration exam, but then you get your license after that. So roughly 5 to 6 years of school and another 3 or 4 years minimum of work experience after that, and then that exam. Probably flexibility maybe is the most important. Architecture is a very varied kind of career, a varied kind of profession, which is part of what I love about it. Sort of a lot of different things that you get to do, and every day is a little different, and even throughout your career things can really change in what you do. But I think flexibility and perseverance, it's a tough career. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of challenges in it, and it's a changing profession. It's very different now than it was when I first got out of school. So I think flexibility and perseverance. Yeah, right now it's around $50,000 a year for someone with one of those professional degrees, and maybe a little bit of experience while they were in college. There's a lot of opportunity for advancement from that, and it depends on how hard you want to work, and it depends on where you live too. Colorado Springs is actually a tough area. The wages are a little depressed here for a lot of the professions. As you move on, if you can become a partner in a firm, that is something that can increase, because then you have a profit sharing kind of thing. Obviously it's also a risk. You're investing your money like any other kind of business. You're investing your money, and in the good years it's good, and in the bad years it's not so good. But there's good potential for advancement in salary. Most people don't go into the profession though for the money. They do it because they almost feel a calling for it, and it's something they really love to do. We have here at RTA, we have a big open studio that holds about 45 people. We like it that way. It's been a bit of a challenge during COVID. Obviously, we went from everybody in this one big room to everybody in their kitchens and extra bedrooms and basements and garages even. But we learned to work remotely. The typical day depends a lot on where you are in your career. For one thing, you might be sitting working on one project and doing the building model, what we used to call the drawings. Well, now it's all essentially a three-dimensional model that we're creating over buildings. So you might be sitting in front of the computer the whole time. At this point in my life, I'm spending more time, whether it's in person or remote, spending time with clients, with our consultants, with government officials, things like that. And I really enjoy that. I like connecting with the people and leading, putting together a team and then leading that team through the project. And so, part of my day might be working on a contract, working on a proposal, reviewing drawings that other people have done, occasionally actually getting to still sit down with trace paper and a pen and design something from scratch, or it might be doing a presentation in public. We do work all over the state, and so we travel around the state for especially our school projects. And so going to different places and working with those communities, finding out what's important to them for their particular projects, and then helping that come to pass.
Wonderful. And then how many hours would you say you work on the average week?
Probably 50 through my career. I probably averaged about 50 hours a week. Sometimes it's been in the office, sometimes it's because I'm traveling around, sometimes it's because I wake up in the middle of the night and I have an idea or a thought, and I'll sit down. Used to I'd sit down and write it down on a notepad. Now I'll get on my phone and take notes on my phone. But it varies a lot for people, but for me in my career, it's probably averaged about 50 hours a week. Well, I tend to be an early person, and so throughout my career, I've started, along the lines of 7 o'clock or something like that. Lately, I haven't been in the office though, so I haven't been here by 7 o'clock or whatever, but oftentimes at home, and I kind of call it that golden hour, between 7 and 8 o'clock or maybe 9 o'clock in the morning. I can get a lot of things done. I can get through some emails and forward instructions and information to people on my teams that I'm working with. I can ask questions. I can, kind of get things rolling that other people will be taking care of throughout the day, and that's pretty valuable time for me, even before I'm connecting face-to-face or one-on-one with people. Trying to come up with a typical day is really different, and actually it's one of the things that I love about my career in architecture is that there really isn't a typical day. That I get to do a lot of different things, and it might be working with the community, as I was talking about, on what's important to them for their school. It might be driving up to the top of Pikes Peak for our project there and seeing how progress is going on that building. And it might be doing the business side of things. It is a business at the end of the day. We run a business here, and so we have to keep track of things and do typical things that you do in a business. Challenges, the biggest challenge maybe is that the profession is changing so much. The building industry has changed a lot. The advent of computers, when I started my career, it was still hand drafting, and with a pen bar and plastic lead or ink on Mylar. And now it's, at least in our office, we're 100% digital. It's all done in building information modeling, which is really terrific, but is very different than it was 4 decades ago when I was in school. So that's the challenge, is just meeting the demands of the business in a changing environment. I think the standard of care, what's expected out of architects, has gone up through the years. Fees have not necessarily gone up to meet that, and so that's one of the challenges, is being financially viable even though more and more is expected. The other kinds of challenges you get into is just the typical things that you don't control. Material availability, and so you may be designing a building and thinking it's going to be built out of one material, and then that's too expensive now, so you're shifting into another one. Client demands change, communities change, their goals change, and so we have to adapt with them. Having said that, meeting those kinds of challenges is a lot of fun and is very gratifying and rewarding. And when you open a building and you see a community using that building, or a client using that building, and they're smiling and they're saying this is better than we ever thought it would be, that's a reward that's far beyond the financial rewards, knowing that you made a difference. And one of our tenets or foundational philosophies here is connecting through experience of place. And so helping create places that connect people to each other, to their work, to their education, to their healing, in the case of a hospital or other healthcare facility, that's extremely rewarding as an architect. Yes and no. It is, like I said, 50 hours a week. It takes some time to do it. Having said that, especially these days, we've gotten more and more flexible. And COVID, frankly, has pushed that a little bit. And now we're moving more and more towards a results-oriented workplace, or a results-oriented work day. And so if you're teaching your third grader math in the morning because they're sent home from school because of COVID, but you're getting your work done at night, that's fine. And we've gotten a lot better and a lot more flexible in that, and I don't think we'll ever go back to the way it was. And so I think, especially with a firm our size, we're really trying to be flexible, and it's all about your team that you're working with and your client. And if you're working well with your team and you're resolving your client's issues and performing for them, meeting the standard of care that we have as professionals, then it doesn't matter as much when you're working. And so you have a lot more flexibility, and we're encouraging that now. And so that, I think it is compatible, but it's difficult. You know, it's a balance. One of the things that's been difficult is those of us that are older, you know, kind of remember we just came and we sat at our desk and we worked when we were told to work, and we really can't have that kind of work environment anymore. We have to provide a lot more flexibility, and I think people enjoy it more. I frankly enjoy the flexibility. You know, if I want to, it's a beautiful day out, and I want to go for a mountain bike ride in the middle of the day, great. Take 2 hours and go for the mountain bike ride and get your work done later on. Just make sure you're meeting your obligations. I think as with many professions and many manufacturing jobs, a lot of things, just the advent of technology, the changes in technology. And so I think there's a lot of things that in the past we spent a lot of time doing, whether it was code studies, of course doing the drawings themselves, those sorts of things, that the computer is going to do more. You know, technology is going to do more. Artificial intelligence is going to have a huge impact on our career. And so I think we'll see a shift away from the things that are, you know, very much number crunching kinds of things to the more personal side of things, you know, the things that the computer can't really do now. And that's kind of exciting to me, because that fits, you know, where I like to live in the profession anyway, is really more the connection with the people and thinking about things that are maybe they can't really envision, you know, dreaming up new ideas and then doing that. And I think hopefully too the computer will help, you know, cut those hours down a little bit, and it'll be doing things more efficiently than we could, and so people can have that work-life balance that they're looking for and still provide a great service to our clients. You know, there's something that was true when I was young, and I think is still true, is if you can get a job in construction, if you can do some kind of construction, so you actually had some sort of hands-on experience in the building trades, even if you take a little bit of time and work for a year, you know, before school or during school, I think that's really important, because understanding how materials go together, understanding how the construction process works, even if it's just for a home builder or a small scale contractor. I was fortunate to work for a home builder when I was right out of high school, actually in high school and then in college, you know, and just being on the job site and sweeping the floors and listening to the conversations and understanding what was going on, I think was a big help for me early in my career. So I'd say work in construction somehow if you can, be around construction, never stop drawing. You know, get a sketchbook and draw by hand. There's something about the hand-eye coordination that really helps you see things and understand how things go together. And so even if you're going to spend your life generating buildings on the computer, being able to sketch by hand and think almost in pictures is really important. I think traveling, seeing architecture in different places, seeing different cultures is great. So I'd say work construction, always draw, and travel if you can.